man. It's very kind. Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm a bloke who jumps around a bit. So, first thing I want to do is a little experiment with you guys. This is an interactive presentation. You'll be sorry to hear. You're thinking, oh, shit, I've got to do stuff now. But can you stand up? Can everyone stand up? So everyone can do a back somersault, right? So no. So it's a really simple experiment, and it's going to kind of lead into what I'm talking about. All I want you to do is to think in your mind, how heroic do you feel now, having heard those speakers? Do you feel inspired or not? How much more likely do you think you are to do heroic things? If you think you haven't been very inspired, kind of have your hands completely together. If you feel that you've been really, really inspired, have your hands nice and wide, and anywhere in between, okay? So just think about it and think, where am I going to put my hands? It could be here, anywhere like that. And just hold that pose. Okay. Let me just get a photo of this. Okay, great. Okay, you can take a seat. Thanks very much. I'm just gonna tweet, just gonna text that photo to my mom. As you can see, started with a standing ovation. Pretty good. Damn, cool. Okay, so thank you very much. It's a trick. It's not an experiment. No, it is. It's an experiment to get you thinking a little bit about, how have you. And I will put that photo up on Facebook, by the way, and claim it as a standing ovation. So tough. It is just to get you thinking a little bit about, how an event like this can inspire you. And an event like this, I think, is really, really awesome for that purpose. And there should be more like it. So I'm here to talk about hero training, which is something I do, I guess, and something I've always done for myself, and now something as a profession that I do in terms of teaching others. We don't really call it hero training. We call it parkour. And there's lots of cool sort of definitions of parkour and things like that. And this is kind of a good definition, I suppose. A transformative practice of self-improvement through constant physical and mental challenge in movement, aiming to develop the attributes of resilience, adaptability, autonomy, willpower, and mastery of the self. It's pretty wordy, right? It's a pretty wordy definition, but it's actually kind of accurate. And, most people who have seen parkour, free running, it's sometimes known as free running, think, okay, it's just jumping off stuff. Okay, it's doing backflips and jumping from building to building and doing crazy stuff. It's like adrenaline junkie type stuff, right? That's the normal view. And it's really not what parkour is at all. It's not how it was born. That's not how it's practiced, really. And it's not how we teach it. Really, this is a much sort of more accurate definition of parkour. It allows you to do that stuff, to jump around and move that way. But that's not what it is, okay? So I'm not really here actually to talk about parkour very much, really. I'm just kind of using it as a vehicle to train myself, to find out who I am as a person, and to help other people find out who they are, okay? And that is kind of similar to the hero training process. What qualifies me to talk about that? What qualifies me to talk about like the hero training process? Probably nothing, but when I was very young, I grew up with, as many of you guys did or are growing up with now, heroic images. I grew up with fantasy stories, with superhero films, with comic books, with martial art movies. And that stuff I was just addicted to that. It's probably my mother's fault. She read me Lord of the Rings when I was like too young to read. She would read it every night. So I just grew up, tainted by those things in a way. And had this kind of heroic ideal. The weird thing with me is that from a very early age, I actually kind of wanted to find out how to do those things. It wasn't just a case of, wow, that's a really cool movie, or that's a really cool book, or that's a really cool character, awesome, inspirational, I'm going to go back to my normal life. It was, that's really cool, how do I do that? How do I be that guy? And how can I acquire those skills? Really, how can I acquire those skills? This is obviously kind of crazy thinking for a kid. I was pretty stupid, and that was like, that was what drove me. So from a very young age, about the age of 7 or 8, that was kind of where my training began. I started to try and learn those skills, right? So I'd go out and study fighting arts and uses of different weapons, because all the action heroes in the movies, they fight, right? And they always save someone by fighting. So think, okay, I need to learn that. And then you've got to be fit and strong, because they can always, the action heroes always keep going and do heroic stuff like lift stuff or jump from building to building or Jason Bourne type stuff. So I need to be able to do that. They always do stuff like ride motorbikes. They jump out of planes and catch a parachute on the way down. So I need to be able to do that. I've never done that, actually. I've never jumped out and caught the parachute. I've jumped out with parachutes and skydived, that's fine. But so I learned all these things, right? I pretty much focused my life on that stuff. And parkour was, for me, was the next step for that. It was like, okay, this is really like superhero training, for real. Like learning to move in that way and conquer your environment and, Spider-Man across the rooftops and all that sort of thing, right? So it was all just part of my own training. And at the time, I didn't really know why I was doing it, other than that these were my ideals, and this is kind of, that's kind of the image I had for myself. So, but really, when you kind of think about what's the purpose of doing it, right? What's the purpose of learning all these skills and becoming this physically capable? Because chances are it's pretty rare that you're going to actually have to save someone by fighting. It's pretty rare that you're going to have to drag someone out of a burning building, or catch a criminal, or whatever, do these physical feats, that you see in the heroes do. So what's the purpose of doing all this training? What's the point? And that's a big question that I have to answer. Right? Otherwise, I've wasted my entire life. Okay. So I kind of recently I sort of realized what the point of that was, and it was actually to be invited to the Hero Roundtable, because that is like, that's super cool, right? So if you've been training for 30 years to be a hero, and then you get invited to like cross the seas, and gather with a load of heroes at the round table, you go, right? Okay, it's like, yes, that's what I meant to do. So it was a no-brainer, and I have to thank Matt and Ari for basically justifying the last 30 years of my life with this. I can die happy now that I've been to this event. But what is the point, right? That's kind of what we're going to come back to, is what is the point of all that training and that process. So the hero's journey, I'm sure the kind of the idea of the hero's journey, the mythos of Joseph Campbell and back before that. There's always this, it always begins with kind of the altruism stuff. We've already heard about that, the idea of helping others and being selfless. And then that's the motivation, right? And then it moves on to, there's always a training phase that a hero goes through. Okay, there's always this kind of phase of, if you watch a Rocky film or a superhero movie or a martial art film, there's always a section in there where there's normally a montage where they go through like a training period and learn the skills that that's going to enable them to actually be heroic and actually be of use to someone. Okay, so it's not enough just to have the desire to help. The altruism is the motivation, it's the wellspring from where the desire to act comes, and that's very important. But it's not enough just to have that, because if you have that and only that, you're just the bystander who's well-intentioned, but that's all. So you're the one that really would like to help, but you kind of can't, and you just stand there and watch bad stuff happen. Whereas if you have the attributes to help, be they physical or mental or whatever, or courage, willpower, the ability to overcome fear, inhibitions, or literally the physical strengths in order to be able to do that, then you can make a difference, right? So it's a question of developing those attributes. Okay, and how do we develop those attributes? Those are some graphs. I always put graphs in every PowerPoint just because my math teacher told me that a PowerPoint is not a PowerPoint without graphs. So they don't mean anything. But there we go, some graphs. My math teacher is happy. So we have this phrase in parkour, être fort pour être utile, which is a French phrase which means to be strong in order to be useful. Okay, so that's what drives our training. That's really what drives our training. That's the purpose of what we're doing. Okay, we're not doing it just to be able to jump and do cool stuff. We're actually doing it for a reason. If I can keep my headset on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my 3 rules for hero training. Okay, and these rules you can apply to pretty much any field of study. So the 3 rules that I'm going to give you, okay, they're a process, and it's basically the process of all learning, right? This is how all learning works for humans. Rule number 1 is explore, and by that I mean get out and literally explore the space you live in. In parkour, we literally do that on a very visceral level. We just go out and walk around the city and find stuff to do, okay? So explore, but it doesn't have to be physical, right? It can be whatever field of study you're in. Have that exploratory, curious nature that makes you get out and find new stuff and actually get out of your comfort zone, okay? It's about getting out of the comfort zone. That's what exploration is about. As Andre has already talked about fantastically, you've got to do that. The beginning of your journey begins with that, right? Exploration leads you to challenges. Okay? Exploration will bring you face to face with challenges all the time. That's where you find the challenge, because you go out looking around and you come across an obstacle or a barrier or a wall for us, or a railing or an interesting piece of architecture. In your field, it could be any barrier you come up with, any problem that hasn't been solved. Okay? And those challenges they're the thing that are going to progress you. Okay? They're the thing that are going to make you grow and improve. The important thing with challenge is this: if you know you can do something before you begin it, it's not a challenge. Okay? It's routine. If I know I can do it at the beginning of the day, I know I can get up and do that jump, it's not a challenge for me. It's just, comfort zone. So a challenge is something I'm not sure I can do. I don't even know if I can do this. Then okay, now this is a good challenge. Now I'm going to try it. It doesn't matter if you succeed or fail. Okay? What matters is trying something you're not sure you can do. That's where the growth comes in. Through exposure to those challenges, you get positive adaptation. Okay? It's the feedback loop of all learning. Yeah? Explore, find something that you want to know more about, encounter the challenges in that situation, in that field, and have positive adaptations that allow you to overcome it. And that feedback goes back into the loop, and you can explore further, okay, and new things. So the adaptation is really, really key, okay? Obviously, you want to try and find positive adaptations, okay, which means kind of training smart, moving smart, and all that sort of stuff, and being smart. But those 3 rules are a process, right? So this is the kind of protocol that we're left with, that I've sort of distilled my own training to, my own life to, in a way, is explore stuff, discover, get out there, don't be afraid to try new stuff. Don't care what anyone says, anyone tells you it can't be done, ignore that, go for it, okay? Find the challenges, find the hardest things there are within that field, and conquer them, okay? Overcome them. And through that challenge, you will find yourself growing and adapting, and it's the process of all human learning, okay? And you can apply these rules to any system, any field you're in. If you have that mindset, based on that process, you will get better, okay? And as you get better, you will then be able to, the point of the whole thing, with that adaptation, you are more capable, you're more useful to other people, okay? You can actually help them. Because heroes are actually pretty rare, okay? Not everyone's a hero, which is why we love the stories. And the heroes are rare because they've been trained, okay? They've trained themselves. They've gone through the process and the hardship. So whatever your field is, whatever your interest, your discipline, try these 3 rules, get out there, get training, make yourself a hero. Thank you very much.